This is Bob Anderson from Factory Direct Modulars. I wanted to do a little information video based off of some information I had recently heard, and I wanted to put it in a format that might help everybody here. This is Cookie here. She decided to come in and work with me on Sunday. We're doing this video on a Sunday. Say hi, Cookie. Hi. Anyways, there she goes. Oof. She getting heavy in her old age. Either that or I'm getting too old to pick her up. Anyways, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of it regarding economists and things like that, because it's just something that I'm naturally interested in. Anyways, just recently, I think it was a guy named Dan from iAllegedly. He just happened to blurt out that the average median rent in the United States as of June 2022 was $1,827, I believe. $1,827. That number flabbergasted me. Here's why that number flabbergasted me. Is because it's more than my mortgage ever was on the house I live in, that I custom built 18 years ago. And I'll get to some personal stuff about that maybe in a little bit here. But it just kind of just shocked me that rents could get that high. So I thought, well, Jesus, man, let me go back and do a little research. And this video is really tailored towards anybody at any age, but it's really important for anybody that's sitting out there that might be, say, 40 years old or so, because this is going to be a 20-year snapshot. This is what I'm doing, a 20-year snapshot. And let me point out to you, as I've said in some of my other videos, all this stems from the fact that we have a debt-ridden government. We have a government that is so far in debt that the only thing it can do is create more debt. And a Federal Reserve, nice and complicit, to just let it go. And so the only way the government can even pay its bills is to borrow money. I mean, it's like borrowing money from MasterCard to pay your American Express this week, and then next week borrowing money from American Express to pay your MasterCard this week. That's what our government has done. That's what our government has enslaved us citizens into for the rest of our lives. I know it's beautiful. I love it. I know. Anyway, so because of that, we're going to continue to have inflation. And if anybody's done any research on the fall of Greece, the fall of Roman Empire, fall of Germany, the fall of just about every major country in the world, throughout history, it has been from the accelerated decline in the value of their currency, because the government gets further and further in debt. A gentleman by the name of Thomas Jefferson, you're probably not taught about him anymore in school for various reasons, but anyways, he can tell you all about that. So anyways, what I want to do is I want to take a 20-year snapshot and I want to put it in perspective so that hopefully somebody watching this video will grasp what it is I'm trying to tell you, and maybe avoid some potential tragedies down the road. So here's what I'm going to show you. Went and grabbed these statistics from the Department of Social Security, from HUD, whatnot. And so what I found is that the median rent, now median means there's if you got 50 people paying rent, median means rent number 25. There's 25 people above you paying more rent, and there's 25 people below you paying less rent. Median means literally the middle rent paid. Median rent in 2002 in this country, coast to coast, based on the statistics I found, was around $640 a month. I look back on 2002, and I believe I was paying $450, 3-bedroom. No, I was paying $525. I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a covered porch across the front. I was paying rent. And the average Social Security check for retired people, not disability, not people that early retirement or anything like that. The average Social Security check for retired people in 2002 was running at $895. So, if there's 2 of you, husband, wife, and you're renting, and you had a $640 a month rent, with your combined income back in 2002 of roughly $1,800, I mean, you could probably swing it. You know, I mean, you weren't having wild parties or anything. You may have been going to wild parties, but you weren't throwing any. Anyways, so let's fast forward to 2022. The statistic that was quoted by this gentleman, that I later did some research and found that there were multiple news networks repeating this exact same figure, which is $1,827. So I wrote, that's the median rent in the United States as of June 2022. The federal government hasn't rolled those out in their numbers yet, because they're always like 2 years behind on putting their numbers out. Anyways, so I put the $1,800 down. What I did find is that the average Social Security check, and the only reason I could find this is because, well, they gave everybody a pay increase of 5.9% because they inflated the dollar to nothing. So they actually gave a raise this year to everybody collecting Social Security. So the average Social Security check being paid in 2022 is $1,666, which is less than the median rent. So there's been a flip-flop there in how that comes out. I bring this up for this reason right here. If you do not realize that the government is going to have to continue to devalue the currency for its purchasing power, not necessarily devaluing it versus the euro, or devaluing it versus the yen, or devaluing it versus the Canadian dollar. That's a whole different topic. They have a tendency to, not devalue it against those, but that's because their countries are devaluing their currencies faster than ours. It's not a matter of what is the dollar versus the Canadian dollar. No, it's what is the dollar's purchasing power. That's really what matters to the average person sitting there having to pay rent, having to pay gas, having to pay whatever. So the average, they gave an increase, 5.9%. So the average pay was $1,666 for those who are retired and collecting retirement Social Security. So again, think about $1,666 if you are the average income receiver, which is probably about $48,000 in the United States right now. If you call it quits, you're getting $1,667. So I bring this up for this reason right here. Knowing the government's going to devalue the dollar, knowing the government is going to continue to destroy, they're going to continue to fall behind on their liabilities, and therefore, when the rent triples, but the Social Security doesn't even double. Are you guys catching this? Rent almost triples in 20 years. Okay, rent almost triples in 20 years. But Social Security doesn't even double. Okay? Let that sink in slowly. Now, let's just say that in 2002, you're 45 years old, so you're 20 years from retirement, and you're renting at $640 a month. And the option is to go buy a house. But at the time, rates are 6.5%. The average house in North Carolina is $108,300. That's what the average house costs in 2002. Obviously, that's not the case today. But we'll get to that in a minute here. So, the average mortgage rate is 6.5%. Your principal and interest on a 30-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage is $685. So, that doesn't include mortgage insurance, taxes, insurance. So what I did is I just said, let's go with 100% financing, USDA loan on $108,300. You get $685 principal and interest payment. Now, here's the point of this story. If you were diligent and paid on that mortgage on time for the next 20 years, all the way to 2022, and you didn't do something ridiculous and refinance it and extend the term out. Now you can refinance it and lower your payment. That all makes sense, but don't. If you're 10 years into a mortgage and you refinance it into another 30-year mortgage, and then you fall into the trap of just paying the payment, then you reset your whole loan. You're sitting there for 30 more years. Don't make that mistake, but that's a whole nother topic. Anyway, so if you just literally forget the fact that your rate was 6.5 and rates went down to 3, let's just say, year and a half ago or so, when we had a different president, maybe. Anyway, so just assume you didn't refinance. You just stayed with the mortgage you had. Here's the key to this story. Here's what your principal and interest is in 2022. $685. Not your rent 3 times more than it was in 2002. That's one of the main powers of buying a house, is to try to stop the insanity of the most expensive asset that you either buy or rent in your life, which is shelter. That's the most expensive asset that you will either buy or rent in your life. It's shelter. Not allowing the most expensive asset to inflate the payment further and further and further and further and further, while the things that you're counting on in life to take care of you don't keep up. We could get into a whole topic as to why Social Security doesn't keep up, but hey, if you still trust the government, I could teach you a lot of things. Anyways, so this decision made by somebody who woke up in 2002 is resulting in this for them today if they never did anything but just make the payments. Okay, and I'm not necessarily promoting that either, but I'm just saying, worst case scenario, they just sat there and made the payments. This is where they're at today, not here, or somewhere double this. Just a couple other quick statistics for you. Average annual rent per square foot, okay? So keep in mind, apartments and rentals keep shrinking also. But the price per square foot keeps escalating like this. So I grabbed just a 10-year graph of some numbers. 2012, the average rent was $13.74 per annum per square foot. So a 2,000 square foot house, let's just say 13.74 times 12 divided by was $2,290 a month. Okay, just 8 years later, which was before the last huge bump in inflation, as we all know about, it's $1,927 a square foot, which is $3,200. So it went up a whole $1,000 for a 2,000 square foot house in rent in just 8 years. That doesn't include the last 2 years, which is even more than that. So in 10 years, rent per square foot is doubled. I mean, it's not doubled. It's up like $1,200, $1,400. It's expensive. It's more than your payment if you had made that decision then. So let's talk about today. I can't tell you when the best time to buy a house is, and I can't tell you when the best time to sell a house is. I'm not Nostradamus, but what I can tell you is inflation is never going to stop. This government is too far in debt. There's nothing they can do to survive other than to continue to create more debt. Period. There's nothing they can do about it. This is the rabbit hole that they've pulled us down into that Thomas Jefferson told us was going to happen. I don't want to bastardize his quote, but basically he said, if you allow for a centralized bank, one day all the citizens of this country will wake up and be broke. Well, on paper, we're all broke anyways, because every taxpayer owes the government over $1 million. So I can't write the check. I'm assuming you can't either. Back to my personal life. When I built my house that I live in right now, which is a very nice house, in a very nice neighborhood, I took the equity from my first house that I bought and lived in and paid on a 15-year mortgage for 7 years or so. I took the equity out of that house, which means in 7 years I paid the damn thing down practically half, plus the house appreciated because, again, of this crap. This was 17, 18 years ago. I sold that house and took every dollar and put it into this house, which is my own. This is the second house I've ever owned. And I've lived in this one for 17 and a half years, 18 years, something like that. My payment was set up back then at, $1,450 or something like that. And at the time, well, that's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money today too. Don't take that the wrong way. But when I look at that, when I look at rent being $1,800, fast forward, 18 years later, I think to myself, man, I couldn't afford not to own my house. Anyways, that's just something that's been eating in me, eating in my head, and it just ate in me all day today. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to put a video together. I'm going to tell people about it because, again, you can't live on this income here with this rent. You can't live on this income here with this rent, but you could possibly have a shot in the dark living on this if you're sitting here. And the only way to do that is to start the clock back here, not down here. Anyways, everybody have a good day, and Oh, my new announcement's coming out. I forgot about that. I am going to be working on our website, factorydirectmodulars.net, not wholesalemodulars.net. I own both these websites, okay? I am going to be working on factorydirectmodulars.net all this week so that I can be adding about, I think, 23, 24 floor plans from a whole new manufacturer. So I'm excited. And if you're thinking the pricing's going to be better than what I've got now on wholesalemodulars.net, no, that's not going to happen. That I can tell you. The pricing's not better than there. These houses are more expensive. Not fully sure why, other than they've got a lot of marketing and advertising behind them. But you'll know what I mean when I announce it. Talk to you later. Bye.